everyone, and welcome to that Eurovision site, Eurovision with a slice of life. Nailed it. I'm Helen.
I'm Shiloh. Hi.
So we are here today to talk about Romania's national selection, Selecția Națională, aptly named. That took place amongst the many national finals on Super Saturday on February 11th. We had 12 songs competing in total, and the winner was Theodor Andrei with his song D.G.T, parentheses, off and on, end parentheses. And he won the total public vote, which was a televote and an online vote combined, and he won that by a comfortable margin by about 400 votes. Second place on the night was Andrea de Folklore Orchestra, and let's see, third was Andrei Dutu with Statues, and fourth was Aladaida, blah, 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 who I think was one of the pre-contest favorites. And then rounding out our top five was Amia with Puppet. I guess what I want to start off with was, what are our thoughts on our winner? What did you think of him, Shiloh?
I was very pleasantly surprised when I went and watched the video later. So for viewers who didn't necessarily keep up with our national final coverage, I was actually doing Melfest for much of the afternoon, and so I didn't watch all of Selectia Naționala as it was happening. But I went and I watched the performance later, and I was so he's so comfortable on stage in a way that really doesn't come across in the recording of the song. And I I don't want to say this in a mean way. I interviewed Theodor Andrei for the site. He's really nice, really sweet kid who's really enthusiastic about Eurovision. He's wanted to do this for a very long time. He's very passionate about what he does as an artist. That song was not recorded very well. It doesn't have the same energy in the recording that it did when he was performing on stage. And, ultimately this is to his benefit because so much of Eurovision is about what happens on the night during the live broadcast. But that performance, I was kind of shocked. Because he was just owning it. He really has this rocker vibe on stage that just very self-assured. And the live vocals were awesome, and I was going into it, I wasn't really expecting him to win Selectia Națională. I didn't really know who would, to be fair. I didn't really have a projected winner going in or anything, but I was surprised when he won, and I was very pleasantly surprised by the performance. It was great. It was a little bit sexier than I had really anticipated coming from an 18 or 19-year-old kid. But wait, did you not know how old he is, Helen?
No,
no, he was born in 2004. I'm pretty sure he's 18.
Wow. I'm old.
Unless he had his birthday very recently, but at the time I wrote up the interview, he was 18. It was a much sexier performance than I expected. The women with their garters and everything, but it worked. It really worked. So I'm pretty impressed.
Yeah, so I have to say, watching everything in order, and the live performance was when I heard everything for the first time, so I didn't have any studio experience to go off of. I just kind of knew what the conversation was about, who people were kind of picking as their winners. So he came up, I think, sixth in the running order, and he was the first one that stood out, performance wise. I think most of the performances up to that point had been not bad, but pretty safe, I would say. And this was the first one that really stood out as, we're here to do something different and sending a message. I'll have to look up the English lyrics just to make sure. But I think from the performance, I think I got what they were going for. I don't know if it's going to be able to work on the Eurovision stage when it gets to May, but I'm sure there can be some adjustments made while keeping the spirit of what was done. yeah, so he was like one of the ones that I found myself kind of rooting for throughout the show, and I was very pleased when they called him up as one of the top five. And then I wasn't sure if he was going to be the one to take out the win because you have your Andrea D, who is very much in the Zobzystub just fun party mode that did do so well at Eurovision last year for Zobzystub, and did come a very respectable seventh. And I think she actually won I want to say either the televote or the online vote, one of those two. But and then you have Blah Blah Blah, which is kind of Romania's answer to Slow Mo. I'm not surprised to see a lot of songs like that popping up. But that ended up coming fourth, which I was a bit surprised by. But so maybe there's a bit of not wanting to repeat what had done well. But it's also worth noting that I think this is the first Selectia Națională in a while, unless last year's was, that didn't have a professional jury whatsoever, at least in the live show. I believe that there were a bunch of jurors that chose the 12 finalists from the submissions, but the final result was the public's. And I think they made a good choice. I think this is something that's really going to stand out. And of course, we don't know the full field of Eurovision songs yet, but we have a good number of them. And this is definitely one that sticks out for me. So very happy. They seemed very excited when they won. It was interesting because they called up fifth and they called up fourth and they called up third. And then you just looked shocked, very shocked. But also everyone was a bit tired, I think, by that point, and we'll get to why a little bit later.
We'll get to it.
We will get to it. It really was an experience to watch live. Yeah, so I do have to mention a couple entries that I really liked that didn't end up making the top five. Let's see, who do we got? I really liked Mary Lisp and her song. I think it's pronounced I Vino. It was a bit of a country vibe, which I'm not usually a country gal, but I really liked it. It has a bit of a Brandy Carlisle vibe going for it, which I appreciate. And then let's see, Adriana Moraru, who unfortunately came dead last. It was very, I know, I was very sad for her. But it was a song that really combined her Romanian and Spanish roots that I really loved. And she was just having a lovely time on stage. Yeah, I was very sad for her, but I hope she does come back in some capacity because I really liked her energy. But I mean, I think the top five was the correct top five. And yeah, I think it was a good batch of songs. I think we did good to only have the 12 songs in the final instead of I think last year's was a quite drawn out process. I think at one point there were like 30 songs that were meant to be performed in like semifinals. And I think this is a good length. I think personally for me, I'm more of a fan of one-shot national finals than I am of big long processes. Sorry, San Remo stands. I did that last year. And I need sleep. So yeah. So the show as a whole.
Here we go.
So I come in with the caveat that I know that not every country has the production budget of the BBC, for example. I'm aware of, we have limitations and most countries are able to work within that. Part of the confusion, at least for me, when I started, is because everyone was telling everyone to go to the TVR website to watch, and then that wasn't working for me. So then I found the YouTube stream, which meant I missed Horse's opening performance of Yamame, which was one of my favorites from last year. But he did come back and do a very lovely interval act. Our hosts, I'm just gonna say, did. Oh, hosting is not an easy job to do. I will say that right up front. So our hosts this evening were Ilinka, who many of you will remember from Eurovision 2017 with Yodel It. She is the yodeling lady. With like the wig for me stood out this evening, or I don't know if it was a wig or not, but it was like kind of a Sia bob. It was like a bleached blonde bob. Um, but I mean, she was lovely. She seemed to have a lovely time talking to everybody in the green room. And then we had our main host, I used to say Laurence Nicolescu, who was on the main stage for most of the time. They both did an admirable job, I think, with the material that they were given. The pacing was a bit off. Sometimes you would have them talking to, I thought they were a jury for a good chunk in the front row of the audience, but I guess they were representatives from various sponsors. Still unclear on that. But what it turned out is that during the show, they were also giving away a 5,000 euro prize, like a telephone call-in contest. And we did, I don't know if anybody in the English speaking fandom figured that out until we got to the very end of the show and we were in the green room for a very, very long time. And at that point we were just the voting had closed and we were waiting for the result to be announced or something to happen. And Shiloh, you were waiting to publish the article.
Yeah, your tweets at this point in the show were kind of top tier. Like, you were so upfront about, I don't know what's going on. We are waiting. This is what's happening.
I mean, it really was just that. Like, I knew we had, we had our interval performances. We were talking to people in the audience who I assumed was this jury, but I guess was not. But big shout out to at Romania ESC, who informed us that there was a 5,000 euro contest going on, and they were just ringing various entrants on the phone, waiting for somebody to pick up the phone. And God bless our hosts, they were vamping as much as they possibly could. I think Alinka at one point like started doing the cheeky like Spain entry from a while back. I can't remember the exact
Did
year.
she really?
He really did.
I love Cheeky. I think that was maybe 2007 or 2008.
Yeah,
I want to say.
at least I think that's what she was doing, and she was trying to get the artists involved. I mean, the artists looked like they didn't know what was happening, and finally, like as soon as we heard like the studio phone ringing and somebody's voiceover coming over the loudspeakers, all of us were just like, "Yay!" And then they almost lost them again. But eventually, yes, the prize did get given away, and congratulations. I would also like 5,000 euros, so hit me up, I guess.
Well, but the thing that strikes me as really funny about all this is that if you enter into a contest for a 5,000 euro cash prize and they're going to call you on the phone, you would think that the people who entered would be waiting for that phone call.
I wonder how they did this. I'm wondering if it was just like if you voted for one of the artists that like you were automatically entered, something like that, maybe. But like you would be, I mean, I work as a receptionist, so like you'd be surprised how many people don't pick up the phone when you need to call them.
Oh yeah. I used to work in apartment maintenance. So I know all about people not picking up their phones when they really should.
Yeah, but it was the celebration in the green room when they finally figured like got somebody on the line. It's like, woo!
Yeah.
I mean, I think at this point the show had overrun, I think about like 30 minutes or so, and we still had to do the results. Like, I think this was supposed to end before like right around the time of like Dance Melody Grand Prix and a couple other of the national finals, and they were all finishing while we were still waiting. I think the only ones still going at that point were Malta and Italy.
Yeah.
But and then we were trying to figure out, so how are they going to announce it? And then it happened, like once somebody won, it happened really, really quickly. Like they announced the 5 people, please go to the stage, and then they did it in order. And I think you could tell that they were like, right, we've done this, let's go. And I mean, we got a good result at the end, but it took us a long time to get there.
Yep.
But I mean, I think if they just maybe paced it a bit better, but I overall in terms of the songs I was pleased, and we got a good result. I'm very excited to see what happens in May. So yeah.
I guess I worry. My one concern with this song, and I really do only have one. I really worry that they're going to go the Edward Romaniuta route with this. That it turns into like the Moldovan song from 2015 with the police officers.
Oh.
That's my one concern going forward. I don't want them to do something like that.
I don't know. I feel like that one in 2015 was like more upbeat, and this one's a bit more. I don't want to say slow and sultry because the guy's just turned 18, but like
yeah. But you know, like it's not that I think that they're going to have sex with police officers, but I worry that it's going to become a performance that's entirely about the bodies of the performers. And I mean, Edward Romaniuta was also really young in 2015. I don't think he is actually that much older than I am. Like I was like 14 at the time. I think he was 16 or 17 in that performance. He was very young. And like I don't want it to be a performance that's entirely about look at these sexy women. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, I was a bit confused at the beginning, but like I think in the end it all came together. And it's certainly different from a lot of the things we've gotten so far. We have a lot of bands, I have to say, so far.
We do. And and I'm really not hating it. I love a band.
A lot of them sound a bit similar. Yeah. Kind of. I mean, I see the comparison between Joker Out and Ireland's entry, whose name escapes me at the moment, which
Wild Youth.
Wild Youth. And it doesn't help that they came out within a day of each other. But like, I think we have like 4 or 5 like mostly male bands thus far, and I'm hoping we can maybe keep it at that for now.
Yeah, or get a girl band. I'd love
a girl band. Where's Ready at? Can they come back?
Yes. Yeah. No hate to the Danish guy. I like the Danish guy. He seems cool.
Yeah.
Riley, he seems cool. But
he's also like 10 years younger than I am, so well, actually, really? No, there's that whole thing. Never mind. He looks 10 years younger than I am.
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, that's for the Denmark video. That's someone else's problem.
But yeah, I think in terms of the direction that Romania is going, I think they have a good shot so far to make the final, given the field that we have thus far. And I think they're moving in the right direction in terms of a selection strategy. I think
in terms of like a smaller group of participants.
I think so. I think a one-shot national final works for them, regardless of the result that they get in Liverpool. That being said, perhaps we can work on pacing next year. I think 12 is a good number for them. I wasn't really bored by any of them. So as long as the quality stays good, I'd say, have a jury for like picking the songs that go to the show and then let the audience decide. I think that's a good way to go. So yeah, that's my final thoughts. Anything else?
Really no. Like I'm like, this song is probably D.G.T is probably in my top 5 at this point. I think Romania actually made a really good choice. So I think I'm excited to see what they do with it. I'm a little cautious, but I'm mostly excited to see what they do with it.
That's good, and we wish them all the best of luck when May comes around. And
well, Theodor said in his interview that he has been wanting to do Eurovision since he was a kid, and so like I'm really happy for him to get that opportunity.
I love to see people who have just been loving it for so long finally get to go. I finally get to be at Eurovision for once, because it's like an hour and a half train ride from where I live. So I'm very excited for that, and hopefully, everybody will have a great time, and that's all I can wish. So with all that said, that is it for our Romania 2023 Selecția Națională recap. Make sure to subscribe to That Eurovision site on YouTube and to follow us on all of our social medias at That Euro site. We are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Well, other team members are on TikTok.
Helen and I are not on TikTok.
No. You can also listen to this in audio form on our podcast at That Euro Podcast. You can find it on Apple TV, Spotify, streaming platform of your choice, and you can also find a link to it on our website. Make sure to follow us for all of our coverage. We've got tons of interviews coming up, both with national final participants and eventually, hopefully, with our 2023 class of Eurovision representatives. And it's getting closer to that time. We've got internal selections being nailed down for dates. It is all happening. And of course, we've got our pre-parties. So all of that and more. And we'll be all over all of that. So thank you, Shiloh, for joining today.
Thank you for having me, Helen.
All right. And we will see you guys in our next video. Bye.